Hey, did you guys say you wanted another white guy standing in front of a green screen talking about video games? With the recent debates about quality of video games in the AAA space, I couldn't help but notice that few people were actually talking about one thing in particular, and that's battle passes. At this point, I would be surprised to meet anyone, especially an epic gamer, that didn't know what a battle pass is. But for anyone who's been living under an offline single player rock for the past decade or so, the battle pass is essentially an incentive by the game to encourage players to grind out for longer periods of time in order to gain experience points towards their battle pass, for which the progression gains you in-game items and etc. The main problem with this being the pay-to-play aspect of it, where you can spend real-world dollars to skip all the gameplay part of it and just get the items up front. Now, before we start talking about battle passes and modern DLC, let's go back a ways to when video game companies really first started milking gamers for money. Back in ye old days of gaming, there were these magical places called arcades. These arcades were popular with the youth of that time for the same reason that booze cruising is now, because it's fucking cool. Now, with arcades, every time you wanted to play a game, you had to insert a quarter. So that would be like if every time you wanted to pwn some noobs on Ape Sex Legends, you had to slip a crisp dollar bill into the disc tray on your Xbox. That would be so fucking cool. Now, we still have arcade type establishments, particularly in the US, in the shapes of places like Charles Entertainment Cheese's fine dining establishment and David and Buster's Bar and Gamer Grill. It is important to note that at most of these places, they have a sort of money to token system. So you'll pay real money and you'll get a certain number of tokens or points in most cases that you then use to play the games. And in most cases, you're getting completely fucking ripped off. But when you think about games milking consumers for money, the arcade cabinets from like 80s style arcades were not really a fair comparison, because those cabinets were almost exclusively just making money for the owner of the arcade. When the owner of the arcade bought the cabinet from the manufacturer, after that point, all of the quarters collected by the cabinet went to the arcade owner to help pay for the fucking arcade. Now, fast forward to the age of home gaming consoles, primarily with the release of Atari in 1977, leading all the way to the late 90s with the advent of the internet, changing the way games were being purchased and played. During both the arcade game period and the home release period leading up to the internet, game companies weren't driven by repeat sales, because once the game was purchased, that was it. Game manufacturers weren't just going to go down the street picking up little Timmy by his ankles and shaking him for his lunch money to get more money for their game. Meaning game companies had to rely on producing a good game in order for it to be a financial success. Now, with the rapid shift towards massive multiplayer games in the mid-2000s, game companies started to realize that they could create this new incentive for their customers to continue spending money towards a game that they already own. And that was in the form of DLC, or downloadable content if you're fucking stupid. With DLC, developers could release their fully finished game and then wait a while for the hype to die down and then throw out a DLC for it. And it's worth mentioning here as well that this was not by any means a multiplayer game only kind of experience. Plenty of single player games came out with DLCs as well. Games like that not only had cosmetic options for skins and costumes, but they also came with entire fucking missions? So you're telling me I can get more game for my game after I've played my game for just $10? And while you did have things like Call of Duty releasing new multiplayer and zombies maps as DLC packs, for the most part, multiplayer games suffered from a severe case of cosmetic-only DLCs. Which, if you want to spend your money on cosmetic DLCs, that's not a problem. If you want to buy a bacon skin for your gun in Black Ops 2, who am I to say that you shouldn't? It's literally so fucking cool. But people feeding into the DLC beast only led to further developments that I and many others consider to be in the wrong direction. Loot boxes were first introduced to the mainstream gaming space after several years in mobile games, when Valve decided to implement it into TF2. Loot boxes were and are pretty self-explanatory as far as the concept. You play the game, you have a chance of getting a crate naturally, or you can buy the crates, and then you open the crates to get items. Now, in some games like CSGO or Rocket League at first, you could get crates pretty regularly just naturally playing the game, but you had to pay for keys to open them. Whereas other games like Overwatch, you got the crates for free and you could open them for free. Now, in the case of CSGO and Overwatch, you could still buy the cases, but particularly in CSGO, even if you bought the case, you still had to buy a key to unlock it. This style of gamer wallet exploitation made its way into a lot of mainstream games, primarily the aforementioned TF2, Overwatch, CSGO, and Rocket League. But to be fair, Overwatch and Rocket League have both moved away from the loot box system since then. The loot box system has been under a lot of fire as of the last few years due to a rise of gambling related live streams and websites that are centered around case opening. Now, while all this is very bad, the main reason that loot boxes and DLCs existed in the first place was to drive further sales, which it did very, very well. So well, in fact, that in 2019, there was actually a bill to be voted on to ban loot boxes in video games to protect children from forming gambling addictions. Which is fine because children can't gamble with real money legally outside of video games. So why can they? Anyway, all the while, though, through the rise of DLC, which subsequently led to the rise of loot boxes, developers were still, by and large, putting their best foot forward with the initial game, leaving gamers who didn't really want to spend any extra money on DLC pretty well happy. But that all changed when a certain game that we all know introduced something new. Dota 2 is a massive online battle arena, or a MOBA, or MOBA, which is akin to games like League of Legends, Smite, and Paragon. In 2013, Valve introduced an event for Dota called the Compendium, which was essentially the first form of what we would now call a battle pass, which was just an in-game event for Dota 2 where you could buy the DLC Compendium and it would give you in-game items and skins and whatnot, and 25% of the proceeds from that went towards the prize pool for the International, which is, I guess, like the biggest Dota esports thing. I don't know, I'm not a nerd. After this, games that were new and rising in popularity like H1Z1 and Fortnite opened their trench coats to reveal that they were just an item shop and a battle pass stacked on top of each other, and they weren't a real boy at all. Of course, that's just a joke. Fortnite genuinely has really amazing in-game content and events that keep the player base interested. It just gets drowned out by the incessant smoke detector chirping of the item shop and the battle pass. Can you please change the batteries in that shit? While games like Fortnite, Doll of Cooties, and Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars do multiple battle pass seasons per year, Dota 2 has only ever done one per year, and it's around the International so they can drum up more prize money for the event, revealing that the main difference between the Dota 2 Battle Pass and the ones that came after was that the Dota 2 Battle Pass actually was created with a purpose, which was to get more money for the victor of the event. And while Valve was doing all of this for their esports community, all the other game companies saw was dollar signs. Now, around this time is where you'll see a shift, as not only did every single fucking game try to cram a battle royale in, but they also, by and large, started copying the concept of the battle pass. As previously mentioned, Rocket League and Overwatch both had loot box systems, and they both traded them for a battle pass system. Although it is worth mentioning that Rocket League still does have loot crates, but they're free, so. This is where, in my humble gamer opinion, we start to see the shift that so many gamers have complained about, primarily in the AAA space. Around this time, people started to notice games releasing in what could only be described as unfinished states, much more buggy, unbalanced, lacking in content, and just in generally bad shape from a consumer standpoint. Games like Modern Warfare in 2019 and Halo Infinite both releasing with a campaign that was really well loved by the fan base, but a multiplayer aspect that felt lackluster at best. But don't worry, both of those games had awesome shiny battle passes where you could get such great rewards as Gas Mask and Circle. Games like Fallout 76 being completely obliterated at launch because they sold for a full $60 price tag, but it was just a copy paste of Fallout 4 in worse condition. Now, credit where it's due, I don't believe Fallout 76 had a battle pass at launch, but it didn't take long for them to catch up. Some games going as far recently as to put newly released characters behind the paywall of the battle pass. I'm looking at you, Rainbow Six fucking Siege. I mean, for fuck's sake, Overwatch 2 has a new healer called Ilari, who has a weapon that's more powerful than any other healer, as well as being able to heal super efficiently with an ultimate ability that could crack the Earth's crust like a walnut. And what does Activision Blizzard decide to do? Put her behind a $10 paywall as the literal first tier of the premium battle pass. So now you don't have to grind out the whole season to get the cool OP character. You just have to take mommy's credit card and slide Activision Blizzard an easy tenner, and you get yourself the Noob Fucker 3000 instantly. And with the release of Baldur's Gate 3 recently causing a huge controversy over what should be expected quality-wise from a AAA title, which Noodle made an excellent video talking about the intricacies of the whole situation and all of the context. So if you want that, go watch his video, it'll be down in the description. But this caused a lot of gamers to open their eyes to the absolute dog shit on a plate that game companies have been serving their customers lately in a sad attempt to throw a game at a wall and hope that it sticks long enough to sell lots and lots of battle passes. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe. I plan on doing more videos like this in the future, so let me know what topics you would like me to discuss in the comments down below. Also, follow my Twitch because I'm going to be streaming fairly regularly over there, so you can catch me live and hang out, and all of my other socials will be listed in the description below. So have a great rest of your day or night or whatever time it is for you. Bye-bye.